Hey, welcome back. So this is going to be our third video of this 10-part video series going over how to use these different key cutting machines. Make sure you give this video series a like, a thumbs up, and also share with your friends. Make sure you're subscribed to get the next video as well. And other than that, let's get started. So today we're going to be talking about the Gymkana. It's the 994. You know, I have two of these. I got one and it's really good. I got a second one because why not have an extra just in case, and also if I can cut more keys faster when it comes to like how I use them. The main thing is when you look at these, this is going to be like, think of this as like a smartphone versus like a Nokia flip phone. So we want to understand how to make this really reliable before we get started. That's going to come with calibration and the maintenance and the tips and tricks on how to make sure it's running properly. So if we look at the two manual cutters, the Keyline 303 and the Silka Speed, you know, that's going to rely on our hands and our eyes and our brain to like figure that out, and we can adjust on the fly. The Gymkanas are going to be kind of like you input the data and it cuts it, and it can cut it wrong if it's not correct. So that's where the calibration, you know, I'll teach you, or I showed you in the videos, how to calibrate this to make sure it's perfect when it's even. This one, if it's not calibrated right, it's going to, one, make the key look different when you're decoding it, and then two, it's going to cut wrong, and then you lost inventory, you lost time, and you could damage that customer's ignition or that door cylinder. So you want to be very careful. So I'm going to show you kind of what keys this Gymkana 994 can do, and then how to calibrate. I'm not going to show the entire steps. I do believe I have another video for that, I'll link below, but I'll show you like how the process works, what to look for, and how to ensure the calibration is correct before we start going into the different keys and starting to cut and decode and all that. Cool, let's go ahead and take a look at the keys it can work on. So when you look at the keys that the Gymkana 994 can work on, it can do edge cuts, it can do high securities, it can do like the center cut, laser cut, things like that. So let's kind of go through. So like this would be like a forward key I showed you in the previous video. The Silka can do that, it can do that. You can do detailed like that. You want to make sure that the shoulder's taken account. You can also do center cuts. Cool. Now when you look at like say a Honda key, so if we take this and we put this on the 303, you'll be able to cut that. But say if we have a worn Honda key, see how it's worn and edges are kind of worn down and messed up? That's where the Gymkana can calculate this and give you a brand new key. So the customer has an old worn key and a new key. Same thing if we look at like an old Toyota key. See how it's like basically worn off? With the Gymkana, we can make a brand new key. See how they're totally different if we stick them together? So we have the worn key and the new key. So that's the power of the Gymkana. It can make the correct key, and it's going to work super smooth in the door and the ignition, while the old key will not do that. If we cut this on the Silka, it would still be a bad copy of a copy. Cool. Let's go ahead and look at what we need for calibration. So when you look at the Gymkana 994, you know, it's going to be very precisely machined, and also with the tools used. So we're going to use our provided toolbox, and we want to see like what's inside. Foam on one side, but let's go ahead and look at the details here. So this is what I have to be well suited for what I need and what you should do for this machine, for backups and the daily routine and the what ifs. So the tracer T00, very important. That's what we use during calibration. I have two of them in case you lose one or it gets damaged. For the cutting bits, I have 4 cutting bits that are 2 mil, and then I have one that's 1.5 mil. That'd be for some of these, that center cut key, like for those new Fords. Then I have tracers. I have 3 tracers. The reason why these tracers, super delicate, they will get bent if you just look at them funny or use improper key. They last a long time if you're doing everything correct, but they can bend without warning from a simple mistake that you do. Then I have used tracers. I put marker on them so I can keep track of them, but I use them. I'm going to use one in our video, and I'm going to bend it to show you how a correct key code looks and then an incorrect key code based on a bent tracer. You're going to have your tool or Allen keys. That's to take the jaws and the cutting bits out. Your calibration tool. This is going to be needed for your software updates. Now, the great thing about Keyline, if you contact them, very fast customer service when it comes to the Gymkana, or if you need advice or help, they're able to help you. I think mostly during the weekdays. I think they're on the East Coast, but very fast compared to other companies. So that's cool. Again, not a sponsor, but very helpful for that. So that's where, if you give them detailed information, they can help troubleshoot much faster. So that's the stuff we need for the calibration, and then also to run our daily operations in case something happens. You always want to be extra prepared. So having 1, 2, 3, 4 bits, great. I have an extra bit in the second machine. I have a whole second machine just to be prepared. Cool. Let's go ahead and look at the basic operations of the Gymkana. We're going to have the jaw. This is the U jaw. U stands for universal. Down here is the tray. You can take this out. You're going to have your adjustments to raise and lower. You're going to have your cutting bit. You're going to have your tracer knob. Don't touch these really at all. You don't need to touch them. Just let them do their thing during normal operations. You only change them when you're calibrating. Then you have your touch screen up here. You can either use your finger or fingernail. Be careful, don't damage the screen. They do have screen protectors, or you can use the back of the pen and you can gently type. You don't want to bash it and cause damage. We want to use the brush. We don't want to brush this way. We want to brush vertical. So if we see the chips or the metal shavings, there's also this groove back here. That's where the shoulder stop goes. So you want to brush vertically, but then also I'm not touching this. So you want to brush vertically, and then quick, get the nooks and crannies. Go in here, push out any debris, and then sweep. So you can brush hard as you want, but as long as you're not touching here, here, and here. If you need to touch the cutting bit, you can brush like so. And if you need to, if there's a chip on there, you can brush like so, gently. But you don't need to like side to side motion and then break things or loosen things. You don't want to loosen. The screen, you don't need to clean it. You can use a wet wipe or whatnot if needed. Same thing of shield. As long as you don't touch the shield inside and out, it's basically clean. So when we want to go into calibration, we want to go to setup, calibrations, and do 1, 2, 3 in that order. You can even calibrate the screen in case there's something issues. So also, if we're changing the bits, you want to go to utility, replace the cutter, replace the tracer. It lets the machine know, hey, this one had issues. We replaced it, it should be good, and then you can run calibrations if needed. So the main thing is calibrations. Go 1, 2, 3. Check out the videos below, and obviously I'll show you. Plus Keyline has a video on that as well. But what we want to do is, there's certain details that how this machine works. It's going to have electrical current go through here, and the key blade to make sure. So one of the things I noticed is if this calibration tool has that rust and corrosion on there, like on the end, it really throws off the calibration. The machine can't check the correct angle of engagement or angle of touching when it comes to that. And also same thing for the little bit. So I had someone on my team send in the whole Gymkana to get it checked. Everything was good, but these two parts were kind of rusted, and a simple use of some WD-40 and some buffing cleaned them up, and then calibration was back on point. So very important, pay attention. So before we start calibrating with those steps, we want to take this off, take off the jaw, clean it, put it back in, and then start from 1, 2, 3. Also, when we're looking at the tracer setup, let's go ahead and look. So it's 0 and 2. I believe on the keyline manual for this, if you're within 3, positive or negative 3, that means you're very close to 0, you're good. But if you're not in that area, there's something off. And we look at here, that's going to tell you. And look at jaw setup. This one's always going to be kind of crazy, but it's still going to be centered. How you tell is when it drops down and it touches perfectly centered here and on the key blade. That's how you know it's centered. But the numbers, again, they're very, very minute details. So now we want to decode this Honda key. This is the test key that comes with the Gymkana. Yours will probably be different, but that's the cut code. I want to see if the Gymkana can pull the correct cut code based on the calibrations. If the calibrations are off, it'll throw a different code or it'll be wrong. So let's go ahead and see. And I do have the shield off for educational purposes and so you can see better because that plastic has that glare. So the area of interest we want to see is how it's touching and checking that jaw section. The little tip on there, that's to simulate like a different tooth, different point. It's right in the center, great. And then it touches over here, making sure that the jaws all line up so it can do the mathematics correctly. Now it's going to touch the tip. Now if you have the wrong key in there, it will break the tracer and bend it right then and there. So it's very important. Now as you notice, it's going to touch the sides. So if you have gunk in there from like an old dirty key, it will throw off the calibration. And then it touches the other side. So that's why when you're using the Gymkana, you always want to use a steel brush and clean out that debris so you get a more precise cut or decode. Cool. Let's go ahead and check. So we're looking for that cut code, and yep, I would say that's correct. So if we take the key out and look, the top is correct, the bottom's correct. Good. So it decoded correctly the Honda key. And again, this is after the 3 steps of calibration. Now it's double, triple check and use the Toyota key. The advantage is this key, it touches both sides to make sure the calibration's correct, good. And then this key only touches one side. So we want to be extra sure. If that tracer is bent, you'll catch the error here. So now I'm going to put this Toyota key in there. I'm going to put it at U1. Now I'm going to put it in incorrectly. And when people are in a rush, this is how they put the key in there. And see how there's this gap. I can stick that screwdriver in there. The whole key is twisted and it's not correct. So when the tracer's touching and it's a worn key, it's going to get a misread. It's not going to touch those little details. So that's where you want to make sure to loosen, tighten, put it at the correct placement. And then tighten. So now you notice it's flat. You want to make sure. So let's go ahead and raise it up a smidge so you can see how the tracer interacts with it. And let's go ahead and decode. So again, you see how it's touching. Now also you're gonna notice when you use this machine enough, you're gonna hear the same noises. If you hear a different noise, like a grinding noise, that means your jaw's out of place or your tracer's out of place, meaning like your tracer knob has loosened over time. So again, it's gonna touch the tip because it says there's a key at the U1 interface There should be one there. And it's going to touch each tip. And then we are looking for the cut code, that, and that, and that's the correct key. Great. So now we have calibrated 1, 2, 3 steps for calibration to be complete. And then we checked 2 separate keys to make sure that the calibration is correct. Sometimes when you do calibration, it'll say invalid jaw when you put the first key in there. It's better to have this prepped and checked in the morning or at night before you start the day, so you're not caught off guard and having machine issues first thing in the morning. So cool, now we're good. Now let's go ahead and essentially show what a broken or a bent tracer unit would look like with a cut code. So now we want to look at the tracer. So this is the good tracer which we're using in the machine. This one with the marker is bad. It's a refurbed one. I'm going to use pliers and bend it to make it broken or bent, where it's very minute, but it's going to be off. So I'm going to put this here, and then how we want to check, like say if the tracer, we're not sure, we can just roll it. So if we roll it, you're going to see that it's not undulating and wiggling. Cool, it looks uniform, nice. Now let's go ahead and put that over there for safety, and let's go ahead and if we need to bend them back or forth to straighten or damage, we can use a plier like this. If you have those, what is it, Kypex or Nipex or whatever, those fancy German pliers, they'd be more uniform. So I'm just gonna press a little and bend. So now, if we look at this, see how it wiggles? See how the tip kind of undulates, it goes back and forth. That's so minor, but it's technically broken. Cool. And you can order more of these from Keyline. Make sure you use the factory ones. Don't use cheap knockoff stuff from Amazon. It throws off everything. Don't do that. Now let's put this in and test the same key and see what happens. Okay, so we have the bent one in there. Let's go ahead and see. We want to look and see how it interacts is here and on the tip of that key. So let's see. It might just say failed or lift the tracer. So let's see. Cool, it touches. Okay, and let's see what pops up. Okay, so it shows the same code. Great. Let's go ahead and make this a little more extreme. And take that out, being ginger with it. So it's bent. See how so bent it is? But I'm going to bend it a little more and make it a little more extreme when it comes to this example. Okay, so I bent it. So when it's like this would be like if you have the wrong key blade in there, like if you're doing like a long combo key, but you are actually cutting like a key insert, like emergency, and it just plows through the front, or if your calibrations offers X, Y, and Z. So let's go ahead and see what happens. Okay, now it's going to be with the bad calibration or the bad tracer. That's extra bent. It's more pronounced. it says invalid jaw. So it can't detect that section, automatically stops. So if you have it in the middle of being a bad bent tracer, and that's going to be your error. Just finishing up the calibration of the jaw, the third step, and everything's back on track. And then I'll do an after action report, and then we're all done for this video. Okay, so now we're going to decode this Toyota key once again after calibrating all 3 steps and seeing what pops up. Complete. And yes, the correct cut code. So cool. Let's go ahead and wrap up and do our after action report. Okay, so as you saw, the Gymkana series, it's very, I guess, detail focused. So I showed you how to decode it and like test it after the calibration. It's pretty straightforward, but then just by bending that tracer, when it was sort of bent, it was still operable. It was a very nice cut key. If we try to decode like a worn key, it probably would throw a different code. But then when I bent it even more, it just said, whoa, what is going on? Something's broken. And I guess the thought process of the Gymkana was saying, what caused it to bend? Go through and run all the calibrations again and make sure that whatever you did, you didn't do it on purpose, or it's the machine. Basically, the problem solved. Calibration stayed basically the same. I didn't see any influx. So I put the working tracer, the straight tracer back in there, put it back to normal, but then like kind of had it like recalibrate and understand everything's good, and now it works. So I guess looking at the bigger picture of things, that was like an extra 8 minutes to 12 minutes to recalibrate that with that bent tracer. One of the things I've seen that causes a bent tracer is if you have like, for example, I don't know, say if you put the wrong year range for like a cut code on the inside where it has to travel in there, and it's like 8 cuts or 10 cuts, things like that, or it's different blade lengths. It's supposed to touch here, but it goes all the way down. It can't find it, or if it's too far forward, it touches before, things like that. Or as simple as like a piece of metal debris on there, it throws off the calibration in that depth. So little things like that are very important. So again, if you have any questions, go ahead and check out the description below. I'll have my email on there. You can take pictures of what you have going on, and we can troubleshoot. Or if you have questions in general about these video series or something I want to cover maybe in the next couple ones, feel free to reach out to me. And again, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up and share with your friends, and comment below on if this is helping you or not. Other than that, have a great day, and I will see you on the next video coming up. It will be about the Gymkana, different keys and options for that, which kind of is all segued into. So cool. Other than that, have a great day, and I will see you next time. See ya. Bye.